I got a bit of a I got a bit of a sarcastic joke, and that's I'm gonna open this up. So, somebody ever asked, for example, how does this person do this thing? You know what the answer should be? Well, how does a shark swim? You know what I mean? Like, like, how does a shark swim, man? You know what I mean? What kind of question is that? How does this person do that? There's nothing wrong with that question at all. That's normal. That's a normal thing that people will say in certain circumstances. You know, society or social. I'd say social, the social world, or can't call it the social world. Any social circumstance in any place has its own kind of feel. Everybody belongs somewhere in this world. You know what I mean? Um, I will tell you one thing, and this will be agreed upon by maybe few or some people who understand this. If you are a shadow and you decide to live in the regular world, you gotta live with everything that you did as a shadow. Meaning, if you're a shadow and people are telling you that it's a bad thing that you're being too perfect or trying to be perfect, or you're just embodying perfection, that's wrong. You shouldn't say anything, by the way, but you should consider the fact that if you're living as a shadow and one day, and when you live as a shadow, everything matters. So perfection is actually very important. When you're living as a shadow. But sometimes people go from living in the regular world and they go into the shadows for whatever reason. It is not an easy transition to do that. That is not an easy oh yeah, the point was I got the point. The point was that when you go from one place to, like, think about it, and you'll agree with this. When you go from one world to the other, when you make that move, not, I wouldn't say most of the time. I would say almost all of the time, because I don't want to be wrong and I'm lowballing. I really think it's all the time. Almost all of the time, or all the time, you will end up going to a totally different place, literally, location wise. Now, it could no. You know what? When something that extreme happens, it's yeah. You could start off by going to another area within a general area, and you might go to this one area. That may happen, but at the same time, that might be temporary, right? And I'll get to explaining. And then you could go to you could go to a different country, you could go to a different state on the other side of the country. Now listen to me here. Now I talk about something that's very uncommon. That's going from the shadow world into the regular world. That doesn't really happen, because when people live as shadows, they feel like they can get away with a lot of dirt, so they do a lot of dirt. Now, if you live absolutely perfectly as a shadow, you are an exception. When you come into the real world, it's really no issue, right? Now, when you do so, okay, so I'll get to it and you'll understand this. Everybody's seen Goodfellas, right? You've watched Goodfellas. It's a classic movie, came out, I don't know, 92, 93, I don't really remember, but Goodfellas is a classic movie. Everybody knows about I don't know, most people probably have seen, I don't know. If you haven't seen it, just go to another YouTube channel. And I'm joking about that, by the way, but if you have seen it, what happens in the end? So Ray Liotta, supposedly as a young teenager, joins this diner where he gets a job, and there's a lot of illegal activity or organized crime going on at that diner. He gets into organized crime at a very young age. They show, he's doing stuff from like that age, that he's in organized crime. Eventually becomes a gangster, hooks up with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. Robert De Niro was Jimmy. Doesn't matter. Robert De Niro. He hooks up with these guys, and then they're doing even bigger organized crime, and they're living very well. They're taking trips to the Bahamas or whatever. They got money. They got more money than they need. Everything's cool. Do you recall what happens at the end? At the very end, Ray Liotta, and I'm using their actor names by the way, Ray Liotta goes to court in front of his boss, in front of Robert De Niro. And by the way, Joe Pesci gets killed. Don't forget that. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Joe Pesci gets killed. But Ray Liotta testifies on the stand and points a finger at his boss and Robert De Niro, who was his partner or his mentor, and points them out and goes into witness protection. And then what does he say at the end? Do you remember the very end? Now he used to live very well in a really nice house, beautiful house and everything. Now he is living in some shitty, I shouldn't say shitty, but for him it was shitty. Okay, he's living in some shitty suburban house. For him it's shitty because he was living in now he's living in that house. And what does he say at the end? He goes, the other day I ordered, I think it was fettuccine alfredo, or I don't know, some kind of really good Italian pasta. I don't remember the name. And he says, you know what they gave me? Spaghetti with ketchup. That was a line, right? And he talked about how he didn't have that life anymore. He loved that life. When he walked into these beautiful venues and there were performances and stuff, he came in through the back, through the kitchen. He got these prime VIP seats. He knew the owner. He knew everybody there. He'd go with his date. He was the shit. And he had this amazing life. And he testifies now. He's in witness protection, which means he gets moved to in the middle of nowhere. He's got no friends, no family anymore. The wife is allowed to see her parents, and that's it. And he's living in an undisclosed location where nobody will know him, under a different identity. And that's, by the way, that's after snitching. But he's gone from one world, which is like a kind of a mob world, into becoming a snitch. And that's how his life has changed. Now you're going to understand everything that I talked about when you change worlds. So I used to get a lot of feedback, not feedback, but people would be sarcastically, kind of throwing it in there that I'm trying to be perfect or that I'm always exercising perfection or whatnot. Although it was level 1 perfection, it was, it was pretty good though. But that's because it was genuine. That's why it was good, because it was genuine. So it was genuine perfection, and people would criticize it, but this transition wouldn't be really any good to me if if I hadn't done things a certain way. But that's what I wanted to talk about when you're switching worlds, right? For me, going from the shadow world, things happen. You know what I mean? It's like things happen for a reason. You end up going to different places for a reason, right? You know what I mean? Somebody could be promising you the world or the most amazing things, all in the meantime planning your death. Not believing that they get somebody like that. I can tell you, but that would get people in a lot of trouble. I'll tell you right now. That can get you in a lot of trouble. That this hunger you have, like for example, like you see this, there's somebody who you can't screw around with or whatnot, and you see them in a different form where you can actually get them, and you're like a little kid in a candy store. You're so hungry, and then you don't succeed, and then it's really bad. You know what I mean? Now it's really bad. It starts coming out. Everybody knows what you were trying to do. Everybody knows the deal. It's pretty serious. However, okay, so I went from this shadow world to being part of society, being present in the world. What does that mean? Well, it means that, it's a big change. It's a big change. You end up in places for a reason. If you make that big of a change, you may be looking at, ending up going to a different city, different country or whatnot. Or within the same area, you may be living a different kind of life. You may be living in a different area. Doesn't have to do. It might just be an area that suits you better. It might be your type of area. You know what I mean? That's kind of like how that works. So to conclude this, I'm gonna try to see if there's anything else I can say. About plays. We could talk about plays. I kind of wanted to do this, but I forgot. It was a while ago, and I lost, and I don't really remember exactly what it was. Just about, anyways, that's not important. I think it's fine what I did. This is it's still kind of early. It's an early night right now. I just kind of got in tonight, so I'll try to post another video after this.